Well, howdy y'all, it's Freeze Crack. Napping in the garage today because it's been rain, it looks like rain, maybe rain. I've been too busy lately. Went crazy with everything. Spent the past 3 days napping with a guy, a friend of mine. Demo at a rock show. That's one of the little preforms I made. I actually made several points, but I was napping in bad lighting, so a lot of the stuff wasn't good. But one of the things that I thought I'd do, I was going to show you, I got this, but I'm not going to hit this today, I don't feel like it. This is a large smoky quartz from Brazil, I guess. But anyway, I picked one that doesn't have a super crystalline shape, because this stuff, when you try and nap regular quartz, it has directionality. It works great one direction, it tends to chatter across the crystalline structure. Other directions it can be real frustrating to deal with. So I'm hopeful that this one will be a little bit less that way because of not having the completely crystalline shape, but I don't know. Have to see. I got some little stuff here I was thinking about messing with. I found a little piece of tile when I was out exploring, and porcelain tile is nappable, so I thought I'd mess with that at some point maybe. But these little things were what I was going to try and test and see if any of them will work today. There's all kinds of, when I go out exploring, I can find tons of this sort of little petrified wood fragments. There's a whole lot of petrified wood north of me, about 50 or 60 miles, and it comes downstream and stuff. So I can go out kayaking or whatever. I can find just all this I would ever want. But the problem with working petrified wood, first of all, a lot of it needs heat. But secondly, a fair amount of it isn't, at least around here, isn't solidified well enough to conchoidally fracture right. Some of it will conchoidally fracture, and I try to pick up pieces that are real shiny sand polished to see if it looks like it will. But it also has a tendency to, at times, I might need to get my little hammer stones. Where's my hammer stones? Hang on a sec. At times it seems to hang on, I can't think and talk at the same time. So it's kind of a problem if I want to make videos. Looking for a good small hammer stone. When it's not 100% solidified, when the grain structure of the original wood isn't completely gone and replaced with silica, it can't, a lot of times it can't decide whether it wants to break conchoidally or break along the lines of the original wood. So that's why you get a lot of the rectangular flatness breaking along planes and then at 90-degree angles to planes and stuff. This piece seems to be pretty well converted, but it also looks like it could use some heat. But other than that, I mean, it's kind of almost like working a slab. And this one's all twisted up. And you can say, well, why would you work that? Well, I think my son handed me this and said I would want to work it. I might want to work it. But the other thing about it is, I mean, I find little like knives made out of this stuff where it's just they sharpen the crap out of one edge or whatever, and they got their little knife. So I don't consider it problematic to make asymmetrical knives. I think there's every reason to make asymmetrical knives. So that looks like it's breaking kind of conchoidally too. Just sort of testing them all here. I don't know why, but I like these little things. They usually are doing. I knew I was going to do that. But that's not breaking symmetrically. That's got it's cracked internally along the plane, so it wasn't replaced well enough anyway, really. And that's rough looking stuff, so that would probably heat, but don't know if I'll do that or not. The best thing to do is to just go along the along gravel bars or whatever, and actually just take a little hammerstone and test them while you're doing it. Ooh, that's fairly rough looking too. That could use some heat. Well, I think I may, now the question becomes one of which would be more efficient. Probably is more efficient to go around and try and edge this crap with my small indirect than with a pressure flaker, issue stick, maybe. We'll see. Man, y'all, I got so lucky the other day. I went exploring and I found a really cool, I should have brought it out to show you, but I found a really cool paleo point that somebody told me is a Dalton Kasachi. What it was is it looks just like it's a concave base, kind of like a Clovis, kind of like a plain view base in a way, but then it had been resharpened almost all the way down to the base, like it had just been used up, like it's a knife or something that had been hafted and used a bunch. But a friend of mine that's really super knowledgeable regarding East Texas material said it was definitely a Dalton Kasachi. I said, okay. I found some other stuff too, but I mean, that was the only paleo thing. Yeah, that might make a point. I got a bunch of square edge here. I don't even know if I should have done this on video, because in part I got a hot light right here by me that's warming me up a little more than I prefer. This is too slippery because it's hard little skin on the outside of it. It probably would be. Would be simpler just go all the way around it from the broken edges. And you don't have to worry that much which way, you know, if it's not a narrow piece and you don't have a real strong need to immediately start getting a final form or something, then you can just go around it. And sometimes, like I've said in previous videos, I do hit things along the edges sometimes, trying to have a little bit less steepness to the bevels I'm creating. But just bear in mind when you're doing this stuff that the fact that you're doing things One of the biggest problems, I think, is when people think the laws of physics don't apply on small scale. Well, they do. Might be some difference when you get down to nano stuff. I don't know about that, but at the levels we work, you know, it's the fact that you're, that's not going to work. I need to come on around to that the other way. The fact that you're hitting a small area doesn't mean that you ought to be hitting above the midline of it, even if it's a small midline. Or that, you know, you should not get the little bitty platforms correct. Little bitty platforms are just as important as big platforms. So, and a lot of people would say, well, it's cheating if you use optical magnification like an OptiVisor or something, but I say, you know, you got to see your work. When I can't see my work well, it degrades bad. You want to see me make an ugly point, just reduce my lighting. This is pretty tough stuff. But it's not real thick, so. I shot that one across it. All I'm doing is zigzagging this. Don't know if you can see it. But I'm doing longer zigs and zags. By the way, that's how I kind of tell too if something has actually worked. You know, sometimes you'll find a piece and it'll have some edges to it, and you ask yourself, well, was that naturally broken, or did some old boy shape that? And you know, if it zigzagged, well, nature probably didn't zigzag it. Well, chattering a little bit going across the grain, but for the most part it's acting like it's a regular rock. My friend that I was napping with, his name is Lane, and he's out of Huntsville, Texas, and I'm probably going to put up some video, if I don't put his up before this. It may already be up there by the time you see this, if you see this. If you don't see this, then ignore what I'm saying. He's like a magician with his napping, because he's done it so long. He's just so highly skilled at it. He does all his percussion in an abo fashion with hammerstones and antler. But he doesn't, and he does a lot of work on small stuff. And it's kind of freaky because when I hadn't seen him work a lot, I was going to watch him at a deal, and he got this little really randomly blocky shaped small piece, like an inch or two piece of Oglala quartzite, and just started working it and made the most perfect little point out of it. And he was doing that this weekend. You know, someone came up to him and wanted him to make him a point out of petrified wood, petrified palm wood, actually. And it was a fairly complicated little point type. And I'm like, man, that's the last material I would want to try and make that point type out of, little serrated edge, you know, little barbed edge point type. And I'm like, wow, he did it. And then another guy came there and wanted to make him one because he saw the first guys and liked it so much. He did that too. I was like, man, what must it be like to have some degree of certainty that you can pick up just about any old difficult shaped rock and make a difficult point out of it. Pretty cool. I'm sort of rambling, aren't I? I'll be right back.